Hi everyone, welcome. My name is Angelique Scott. I am an artist, sculptor, and educator. And today I'm going to be showing you how I throw a cup on the wheel. So let's go ahead and jump right in. So I have my clay here. I'm using a brown body clay today. And so I am going to use my wire cutter just to cut a piece off. Typically it takes about a pound of clay to make a cup for just like your standard 8-ounce cup. This is a little bit over a pound, so I'm only going to use a part of this. And then what I will do, so before I throw anything on the wheel, I always start off with wedging. And so if there are any bakers out there, it's similar to kneading dough, but it's the process of kind of breaking the clay down and already getting it into kind of a rhythm. And so for this, what I do is press down with my palms and then I fold it back up with my fingers. And once it starts to get too long, I just rotate it and then I'll stand it up and do it again. You want to get the clay into this rocking motion when you're wedging, and you'll know you're kind of doing it right when you start to see a spiral on the side. So when I'm teaching, I tell everyone, when you know that you're making croissants, that's how you know you've been wedging properly. So now we are all ready to throw on the wheel. So I'll start by making my piece of clay into a ball. This helps because once it gets on the wheel, it's a little bit easier to throw something that's a little bit more symmetrical than to try and kind of throw this log shape. So I'll squish it into a ball, and then I will just wet the center of my wheel head, just so that my clay has something to stick to. And then I'm going to throw, so this is the wheel throwing part, I'm gonna throw my clay down, I'm gonna aim for the center. Ooh, it's not too bad. So if you don't make center, that's okay, I just scoot it over. I basically just don't wanna pick it up and kind of lose whatever kind of traction or friction I just built up. I make sure it's in this dome shape. And now I can go ahead and get my wheel going. Wet my hands and I can start throwing. So for centering, the goal is to get all of the clay particles to go in the same direction. And so you want to have your arms bent and pressed in so that I'm pulling my strength from my abs or my abdomen. And I'm having my arms on the splash pan as an anchor. And then I will squeeze my hands together and just start to slide up. And so this part of centering is called coning up and coning down. You'll know your piece is centered, or what at least I'm looking for, is that I don't feel any bumps or twists or turns in my piece. So sometimes I'll even kind of close my eyes and just look with my fingers. So this is pretty centered. It's a little off, but it's not too bad. So what I'm gonna do next is go ahead and well in and create this opening. And now what I'm going to do is called pulling up. And so I am going to start to pull up the sides. right, so I still have a lot of clay down there at the bottom, but I'm actually going to wet trim all of that clay off. So I'm gonna wet my tool, and then I'm kind of gonna come in at an angle here. Kind of cut all of this away. So now you can see the form a little bit better. And I still have a lot of clay down there, so I'm gonna see if I can pull up again. So for my vanilla bean cups, this is kind of how I make it. And so once I get a nice width that I like, and it's kind of consistent and even, I will actually start to shape the cup a little bit more. So I can use this metal rib, and this will start to give me a nice curve. I'm gonna make my curve first, and then I'll use the metal rib to adjust it. This cup is slightly larger than what I anticipated, but that's okay. I am going to even out this rim here, so I'm going to use my wire cutter and just, my needle tool, sorry, just cut the top of this off. You can also use a wire cutter. Alright, so this is what cutting it off with a needle tool kind of looks like. Then I could go in with this as well. And I'm just going to use my sponge. I hope everyone has been having an awesome fall. Thank you all so much for supporting Cups of Good with CraftBoston. Alright, and now I'm just going to trim down this bottom again. Voila. And this is how I make my cups. So now I am going to show you guys how I attach a handle. I have trimmed my cup and I am all ready to attach a handle. So I'm going to show you guys how I pull my handles. So I start off with a block of clay. I don't wedge out this block, I just shape it into almost an upside down ice cream cone. and I make sure I have lots of water. And so I am just going to stretch this clay out until I have a handle that I feel like fits this piece. So as I'm pulling, one thing I'm just making sure is that my pressure is consistent all the way around. I want this handle to be kind of sturdy, so maybe a little bit longer. Pulled handles are really nice because when you go to pick them up, you can really feel the impression of the hand on them. So I think this is pretty good for a pulled handle. So I am just going to cut this off. And then I am going to go ahead and shape my handle. So I kind of want it to be like a C. And then I will trim it down a little bit. So now I have my C. It's still a little bit too big, so I'm gonna cut it down a little bit more. I always like to make sure my handles kind of look like they fit onto my piece. So now I am ready to attach it. So I will just trace where this side is, so I know where to scratch and score. So scratching and scoring is something that's really awesome for attaching two pieces of clay together. Essentially, you want to make a clay like Velcro. So I have marked my piece and I'm just going to make little hatch marks. And I'm going to do that for both sides of the piece. So the cup and the handle I'm attaching it to. Usually I would let my handle stiffen up a little bit, but this is okay. And then I'm just going to dip my handle in a little bit of water. And when I go to press down, I'm actually going to press from one side all the way down to the next. I really want to try and make sure the clay is squeezed together. And what I'm looking for are signs where it is almost seamless. And so now that my handle is attached, I am just going to take a sponge and smooth everything out. I want the transition to be seamless so that when I fire it in the kiln, there's no chance of it cracking or any air getting into that seam. So here is my handle. And this is how I create my vanilla bean cups. Thanks for joining.